Right. So today till now we have seen the inbound integrations, how to send data into the Fusion applications. We know the process, what to do to interact with the Fusion application. We have seen HCM data loader, and we have seen file-based data import. In both the scenarios, we have seen sending the file to the Fusion applications. Okay, in HCM data loader, what we have seen in both the cases, as HCM data loader and file-based data import. In both the cases, what we have seen, we have in the source system, we have generated the files. Once the files got generated, we have sent the files back to we zip the files and we send the files to the cloud. How did we send the files? We have manually uploaded the file into the Fusion applications. And once we have into the Fusion applications, we have to run few jobs. If it is HCM data loader, we have to run import, load, and data job. And if it is file-based data, if it's financial and supply chain management, we have to run the load interface job and then the respective job to load data into the base tables. So that's what we are doing. But all these things we have done till now manually. Whatever stuff we have seen till now, everything is done manually till now. Okay, so nothing like I'm sending file automatically from my source system to the cloud, or I'm not triggering any job from my source system and calling a job in the cloud. I'm not doing anything automatically till now. Okay, if HDLDI, similarly, in the case of the FPDA, file-based data import, if we do the automation, right? If we do the automation, what typically happens? Even in the file-based data import, what typically we have done, we have generated the file, loaded the file into the cloud, and once we load the file into the cloud, typically we are running the load and import job, and that job is getting that file is getting loaded into the cloud. That's what's happening. Think of the daily scenario in sense, every night or daily two times a day or something like that. If we wanted to keep sending the data to the cloud automatically, it means we cannot manually keep placing the file or keep triggering the job. We can't do that. Okay, if you want to automate that, what typically the automation flow should look like? If you take about FPDI, file-based data import scenario, what typically we need to do, if you take a real scenario in on-premise application, typically we generate a data file and we encrypt the file, and typically we have to send the file to the cloud. How do we send the file to the cloud? We can call some integration service. I will call that as a web service simply. Okay, I will call a web service. I'm going to talk about what is web service in a while. And I send that file to the cloud. Once I send a file to the cloud, I will trigger a job. I will trigger a load and import job in the cloud. Once the load and import job runs, and if the job is completed successfully, then typically what actually happens, we can immediately trigger extract and purge job. Purging the interface tables, and we can send back the status to our on-premise application saying that, hey, this job ran successfully, something like that. Or we can get back the status of get back what data got loaded into the cloud. We can get a report. We can get that report automatically into your on-premise application or your custom application, and we can get the job output. If the data they're getting from the cloud is encrypted, we can decrypt it and we can use it in the custom application. Let us say if you want to happen this automatically, okay, interaction should happen automatically. So in both the scenarios, what integration, the real scenario, that is what going to happen in our day-to-day life. Okay, so if you wanted to do that, then there is something beyond we have to learn. Okay, typically, even though we won't do that much in our typical legacy applications, but once we move to the cloud, we have to learn a new concept called web services. Most of them, as it is new, if they are working in EBS traditionally, and if we have the experience on it, is good, but something we have to learn that is called a web services, basically. So today I'm going to talk about what is a web service and what is the importance of the web service, and some jargons of web services, and we will see some small example, basically. Okay, let's start. So let us take a scenario. I have documented some scenarios to make us understand. Let us think that this whole thing is a e-business suite example. In the e-business suite, okay, if it is an e-business suite will have a database server where database will be hosted. So in my database, what I did, I wrote a package called EMP details. In this package, what I have a function called get full name. What is get full name is taking the email address as a parameter. And in the program, what I'm doing, from employees table, I'm querying first name appending my last name with whatever email that been sent. So for the get full name function, I am passing an email, and what I am doing from employees table, based on the email, I am generating the full name by appending first name with last name separated by comma. Okay, so get full name is simply taking email as an input and sending the full name as the output. That's what it was doing. So I have the package here, and salary, same thing. Salary, I'm passing employee ID based on employer and returning the salary. It is a simple package having two functions. Okay, so I have another package called communications. Basically, this package is being used to send communications to, example, it's everything hypothetical. Okay, just to understand. Okay, communications package. So this communications package has get emails function, and get email details function is will take a customer ID as an input parameter and v full name and v email as output parameters. And what it is typically doing, it is typically getting the email and full name from the customer's table. So how does it getting the full name? It is actually calling a package called emp details.get full name package by passing the email. Basically, it is just filling the email and the full name from the customer's table and keeping these in these two out parameters, basically. Right? So typically, what I want to say is this package is calling this package, basically. So how we can call it? We can simply give a call like this, because both of the packages are existing in the same database. I can just give a database call like this, emp details.get full name. Automatically this package will be called because both the packages are residing in the same database server, same application, and same application server. As simple as such. Okay, perfect. Think of another scenario where I have my package written in the e-business suite, and I have another package where I have written in my custom application or custom database. So this package is not written in the custom database. Sorry, it's not written in the e-business suite database. It's written in the custom database, right? So if it is written in the custom database, so what I'm trying to do, I am calling this function, whatever this this API, this PL SQL function, which is residing in the different database. Both are different database servers. Okay, how can I do? There is a provision. If you can enable a DB links, then you can call it within. We can call the package which is available within other database. We have a provision to call, because both are in different database, but both are within the company servers. We have provision to talk to each other, each two different databases. We have provision to talk because both are still in the same data center. Okay. Now think of another scenario where your package is in the Oracle Cloud. Okay, and your package here, you are trying to call employee details got full name, which is actually residing in the Oracle Cloud. Okay, so when we say Oracle Cloud, first of all, we don't have access to the database. Okay, and we don't have access to database. It means we cannot call a program which is available, which we cannot call a package just like that. We don't have access to database, so we cannot, from our custom company database, we cannot connect, we cannot call a PL/SQL API which is available in the Oracle Cloud. We cannot talk to this Oracle Cloud database from our database. That's not possible. We cannot call the cloud database from our custom database. We don't have this provision available just like that, because both are different databases and different server. One is in cloud, other one is on-premise. In the cloud, it is in SaaS model where we don't have exposure to the database, and where we can't call any PL/SQL APIs which is available in the database. If you want to query something in this database, only thing you have to do, you have to log into the cloud, you have to go to BA server, and you have to write data model and query it. But you cannot query that, query the PL/SQL or call the PL/SQL APIs from your custom database. That's not possible, because both are different servers. One is in cloud, one is in custom database. Then how this program can call that program? Okay, I have some program in my client application, custom application. I want to call something available in the cloud, okay, which is not possible with our legacy mechanism. Then when it is not possible, especially in the SaaS models, then the importance of web services got increased, because we need to call some program available in the cloud from our custom application, as we cannot call just like our traditional way. We don't have that methodology available. Okay, then in general, industry came up with a standard way of interacting between two systems called web services. Okay, so what is a web service basically? Okay, web service is, what we can simply say is, web service basically, we have a consumer. In this case, I am saying this is a consumer because this is trying to consume a packet function which is available here. So I would say this is actually producer, which is actually producing the function, and this is a consumer which is actually consuming the function which is available in the producer. So I would call it as a producer or a service provider, and I would say the consumer is service requester, which is requesting the service. In this case, both are written in the PL/SQL. It is also in PL/SQL. It is also in PL/SQL. Okay, and what I am trying to do, I am trying to call a function in this cloud or a provider. Okay, and I am trying to send parameters. Okay, and this one I am expecting an output. Okay, so as we cannot call that database packages like that, or cannot call things like how we are calling traditionally, so what industry has given is, if Oracle Cloud wanted to expose Oracle Cloud, anything, if any server wanted to expose this get full name to the outside world, then what they said, yes, you can expose get full name to the outside world. If it is exposed to the outside world, then any outside one can take that. In this case, if get full name, it is Oracle Cloud is ready to expose to the outside world, then from my custom database, I can consume that. So when you say you want to expose to the outside world, and if you want to consume that, then these two systems has to talk together first, right? So how it is means, if it is exposed outside, then this function should call that exposed function by providing parameters, and this exposed function should return back the parameters to this consumer. So that interaction typically happens in the XML format or JSON format. So JavaScript object notation, JSON format. So this conversation can happen in the XML or JSON format, where these two systems can talk together. can talk to this, then these systems can talk together between each other. But okay, that's good to know that they can talk each other. But for consumer to talk to this producer, basically consumer should know what is the specification of this one. Get full name is there. What does get full name take as an input parameter? What does get full name returns? How do we know what it takes as input, what it takes as output? So what it will return, right? We should know that. Only then this consumer can make it effective use, right? So I should know whatever this producer is there, what is the function name, what is take as input parameters, and what will give as output parameters. Then this consumer can send the input parameters, and based on producer can send the output response, and this consumer can catch the response and manipulate it accordingly in their functionality. So how do we know these two things? How do consumer know this specification of that? That is number one. Okay, that is possible. And second thing, let us assume that here I'm talking about a PL/SQL procedure and a PL/SQL procedure. Okay, let us assume that in the cloud, people are no more writing a program in a PL/SQL. Okay, they might be writing in a Java program. Instead of writing a PL/SQL code, they're writing a Java code. Basically, most of some of the functionalities are written in Java basically. Or think of Microsoft Dynamics, they're writing the code in the .NET. Or think of maybe Workday, they're writing the code in the Workday specific language. So, and everyone is exposing their web services to external world. Okay, in this case, let us assume that this program is written in Java, and this Java also has a full name function which takes email as an input and returns the varchar2 as an output. Okay, now, and I want to, from my PL/SQL program, what I am doing, I was again trying to call get full name, which is available in the cloud, because I'm not really calling a database API anymore. I'm just passing an XML format as a parameters, calling that function, and I'm getting then output as an XML file. When I'm sending the data in XML format and receiving the data in XML file, then why should I bother about what logic this producer or what logic this consumer is in? Okay, so what web services also offers is web service can have any programming language as a producer or a consumer. You can write a consumer program in Java, C, C#, .NET, or PL/SQL, or a shell script. You can write anything, any programming language here, and here also you can write in any programming language here, because the conversation between these two systems happening in XML format, it doesn't matter what is it. Okay, that is the second thing. That is the reason these web services are always a platform independent. Okay, and again, coming back to my previous thing, when is consumer trying to call the full name, how do we know the specification of the full name? How do we know the input parameters and output parameters? For that, for every web service we have written, we have something called web service description language called WSDL is there. So whenever a producer ready to expose a method as a web service to the outside world, whenever a producer ready to expose a method saying that, hey, I have this method, please come and consume it. If producer want to expose that method to consume to the outside world, then typically this producer has to create a WSDL file for that. That is called web service description language. That is called a contract to the web service. Why I'm saying contract? Because that contract will have what methods available, what arguments that methods are going to take, what is the return type. So this is WSDL is available in the producer. Producer has to generate the WSDL, and consumer what typically will do, consumer will just look at the WSDL file. That WSDL file gives the information to the consumer. So what consumer will do, look at the WSDL file, that WSDL file will have, okay, oh, I have this, this is the method, maybe get full name is the method, and it has input parameters as email and output as a varchar2. That's what consumer understands it. When consumer understands that input parameters are those, output parameters are those, then consumer can confidently send the parameters, can call the method available in this producer with the proper parameters, and typically consumer also know what data it is going to receive when that method is being called, and based on that consumer catches that information back and generates the data and the consumer accordingly. So WSDL is very important thing, and whenever you wanted to work on a web services, first thing you have to know what is the WSDL. Okay, what is the web service description language? Without getting the knowing the WSDL, you can't write the web service program. Okay, and this WSDL generation typically from the producer has to generate it, but this WSDL file generation as typically happens automatically. We have several tools which we can generate the WSDL files, and we can refer the we can generate the WSDL files, and we can those WSDL files will be available to the consumer to look at it. Now, where do consumer can find the WSDL file? Example, producer has, in this case, we have two functions. So two functions, this function and this function. So, and maybe producer has several other packages. Maybe producer has written one package in PL SQL, other thing in Java, other thing in C#. Producer has many components which producer want to expose to the outside world, right? So if they want to expose to the outside world, then typically consumer should know what are the components are being exposed, what are the components being exposed by this producer, right? What are the web services, what are the WSDL files being exposed, where I can refer that specifications, methods, inputs and outputs. Okay, those things will be, whenever producer create any web service, typically they register the web services in a directory which actually called UDDI, basically, which is called Universal Description, Discovery and Integration. It is a directory or registry where consumer can look for the necessary web service and get the WSDL. Once they have the WSDL, okay, once they have the WSDL, then typically they know what methods, what arguments, what return type is available, and to start writing the programs and start consuming the data accordingly. Okay, so UDDI is another important thing, which is actually a registry where producer has to register the WSDL file in the directory. Okay, and yeah, I mean it's not necessary, but it's a standard way of doing the stuff. Okay, now, so we have seen WSDL, we have seen UDDI, and I also said that consumer sends the data to the producer in the XML file, and producer has to send the data consumer in XML file. So it means what I'm saying is both the systems are talking each other. Okay, there is a communication happening between those systems. So it means it is messaging to this system and this is messaging to this system. Okay, so there is a communication happening in XML format or JSON format. So that communication, how that happens, if we see any networking concept, any communication between two different systems, if it happens, they will pass the messages in the form of a packets. Packets, nothing but it's a binary digits 101010. It's a packet, small packets. Okay, and more this communication, and if we evolve, if networking is evolving more and more, this communication between these systems are also called protocols. So as these systems are talking to each other, and that as they are talking to each other by simply using a simple XML file, so what they're calling this communication as simple object access protocol, a message protocol that sender and receiver understands. That is called SOAP. So SOAP web services is actually one which is helping to communicate between the producer and consumer applications. Okay, this is called SOAP. Okay, simple object access protocol, and which helps us to talk to these systems each other in the XML file format. And we have another methodology as well, similar to SOAP. We have another methodology which actually helps talking between those two systems, that is called REST web services. REST is actually representation state transfer. Basically, it is actually, REST is actually more refined version of the SOAP actually. Previously, we don't have REST web services. REST web services was a new terminology, new concepts, where actually it is easy for developers to maintain than the SOAP basically. And in our cloud, we have both kind of web services. We have actually SOAP web services and REST web services basically. So we will be beginning the SOAP web services, and then we will talk about the REST web services. Okay, right. So yeah, so till now we have learned data transmission, we have learned about producer, consumer, and we learned about XML and JSON message formatting, and we learned about WSDL, and we learned about UDDI, and we learned about SOAP. These are very important jargons in the web services concept. Okay, and we have REST web services. Okay, so that's what it is. Now, we know XML format. Everyone has seen how the XML format will look like, right? It's XML tags. Okay, and similar, as I said, the data communication between the systems can also happen through JSON. Okay, JavaScript object notation. How does it look like? JavaScript object notation looks like this. Basically, JavaScript object notation, basically what happens, it go with the name and value pairs. So basically, it goes like this: name equal to this, phone equal to this, street one equal, something like that. Whereas in XML tags, what happens? Every name is an XML tag, phone is an XML tag, so like that. But in case of JSON, basically, it's actually data will be transferred in the format of an objects. Basically, instead of the XML tags, it will go as an object. Okay, that's why it is called object notation, basically. Okay, so we'll see it both the ways how the data is being transferred between the two systems. Okay, and now I'm going a little more further and going to talk a little more terminology about the web services basically. Okay, right. Now we have seen producer and consumer. I'm calling consumer as a client application because this is the client. Basically, producer is the one who is a superior, who can generate the methods where client applications or consumers can just consume them, right? So now let us say an example. We have a producer who is a service provider, basically, and I have a couple client application one, which is written in Java, okay? And I have another application which is written in C++, right? So what I'm trying to do, I am trying to contact the producer and trying to consume the methods available by the producer, methods exposed by the producer to the outside world. So client application one is consuming the methods, and client application two is also consuming the methods. Now, okay, now let us think that. So in this client application, so what I need to do, my Java. In Java program, I am trying to call a web service, right? So this Java, whatever Java program I wrote, that Java program has to be converted in XML format so that this producer, we can send to the producer saying that, hey, this method is being called with these parameters. Similarly, in this client application C2, whenever I write a C++ programming language, that programming language should be converted into an XML or JSON file format and sent to the producer saying that this is the method they are calling and this is the parameters they are passing. Okay, so this Java has to be converted in the XML and JSON file format, and client application C++ program also be converted into that respective XML and JSON format. So someone has to convert these programming methodology, whatever we are trying to call in this producer, those has to be converted into the XML or JSON file format. Similarly, once we get the data, producer sends the response back with the outputs, then that response output should be again converted into the C++ language format, right? Example, in case of Java, we have let us say we have an data type called integer. In case of PL SQL, do we have integer? No, we will have the number, right? So in this case, if the producer basically, if it's a PL SQL program, then PL SQL program, what it will do, it will generate the data in the number, and that number should become an integer when it is a Java program. So how do we convert that number into the integer? Okay, so there is a there should be some conversion happen while sending the data and will bring into the data. There should be some mechanism which should convert XML or JSON file format according to our client application a specific language. So to do that, there is something called service endpoint interface, that is called SEI. The service endpoint interface, this service endpoint interface, what typically it will do, it will convert whatever you're trying to call to the producer, that is being converted into the producer understandable language, and whenever producer send back to the client application, that will be converted again into the client application specific format. So service endpoint interface is again very important. Basically, if we are consuming the web services from external system, typically the service endpoint interface has to be created. Again, this service endpoint interface, we won't create it. We have tools which will take care of creating the service endpoint interface. Basically, almost all the integrated development environments what we have, every IDE has a tools which will create. If you are a producer and creating a methods, then there are tools which will help us to create a WSDL file. Similarly, if you are a consumer who is writing the programs, then we have something called some tools available to convert it into the respective formats. Okay, this service endpoint interface again is available, who do the conversion from respect to input output data types to the SOAP specific format. Okay, it is another terminology. Okay, so we're talking enough. Okay, let's go and see something what we are talking. Okay, so give me 1 minute. I will.
Lakshmi?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here SC1 client application 1, it is written in Java. For example, producer written in PL SQL, let's say.
Yeah.
So if we send any data to producer, it will send in PL SQL format, and here it will convert into Java, right? SCI.
Okay, so what PL SQL happens, it won't send in the PL SQL format, it again send in XML format basically.
XML format, okay, yes, yeah.
XML format will be converted into the Java specific.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Okay. Because the service and interface will know what actually we are calling and what actually we are getting.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the importance of it.
So
and similarly, to service and interface, what we have here, we also have service interface at producer level as well, which will take care of the conversions.
Okay, so here Java also it will send into XML.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have something here as well, which will do the conversions actually. Okay, so yeah, coming to how we can apply this knowledge to the Fusion. So as I said, Fusion, there is no database interaction with the Fusion anymore. Okay, either we have to interact with the Fusion applications through files or through web services, only two. And going further to this web services exposure is going to increase a lot and lot and lot. And at the, I mean, typically if you are typical EBS person, how we are writing the PL SQLs nowadays, we have to start writing the web services similar way, because that's the importance is coming up, especially when we are going to the mobile specific features, and if you're going to the multi applications interactions, these web services are prominently increasing their role in the artificial intelligence, machine learning, chatbots, and everywhere it has very much importance. Okay, now let's understand, let's come back to our Fusion applications, how it, how
Can you go back to that PPT?
sorry,
Can you go back to that PPT?
yeah.
See, in this SCI, how does this work? Like, it is on the both the sides, right? Because the request is from the client. There is nothing but a client application. So how does this convert and they get back? The handshaking will happen. How does it work?
So the service endpoint interface, before SCA, the end goal is to these two systems will talk together using the SOAP protocol. SOAP protocol, nothing but XML or JSON specific format. So whatever data coming out of the producer should go in the XML or JSON specific format. Whatever data coming out of the client should also be in the XML or JSON specific format. But our programming is written in the PL SQL or Java or C++. How do we convert that specific language, the specific language, specific function calls or procedure calls into the SOAP protocols? How do we convert that? There should be a mechanism which should convert that language specific syntaxes into the SOAP specific format. How do we do that? There should be one interface which should handle that conversions between our legacy languages into the SOAP specific formats. That is the one SCI will do. Once SCI converts into the SOAP specific format, this SCI will study that SOAP specific format, and as per the client specific applications, it will convert into that specific languages. That is the reason, though these two applications are residing in the same company, we cannot have one SCI for both. We should have different service endpoint interfaces if that specific language, a specific application, specific language is different. If both are written in the Java example, then typically one service endpoint interface is enough, because both are following the same kind of syntaxes. That's good enough. But as if you are writing in different languages, different syntaxes, then we should be a mechanism to convert that syntax into the SOAP specific format. That is the reason we should have different endpoint interfaces.
But if you want to extract the bulk data, think that we have a service provider, we have a client application Java.
Okay.
We'll be extracting the bulk data. So
okay.
What is the best one, whether to go with the JSON or the SOAP?
That's, we can, I mean, okay, SOAP protocol. Basically, SOAP protocol basically can communicate. SOAP protocol means what? Communicating between two systems. What's the message formatting? Message formatting can be XML or JSON. That's why if we composite that, it's our choice basically. Either we can go with an XML format or JSON format. It's no stopping to us. It's based upon how we are defining the specifications. Based on that, the data can exchange between the two systems, either XML format or JSON format. If you ask what is a better way to communicate, basically JSON is the most advanced way of communicating between two systems, because JSON is mostly object-oriented concept, basically where we can easy to study and easy to read, easy to convert into the PL SQL structures or C++ structures and Java objects, easy to convert if it comes like this. Whereas XML, SCI, service endpoint interface, has to do more work to do the conversion according to the client specific technologies. So what I will be doing, I mean,
what is the REST API used here? Where actually the things REST API and all?
so as I said, SOAP protocol is what? SOAP protocol is nothing but is actually which will helps to talk between these two systems, basically, which will message protocol that sender and receiver can understand. That is the SOAP protocol. Similar, that communication only, that the communication, whatever SOAP is doing, whatever whatever the communications happening between those two systems, the same communications, basically, we have we got a more advanced way of communication that is actually nothing but REST web services. Basically, it represents representation of state transfer. Basically, what happens is it have a passive and active states. I'm going to talk about that in detail, but for now understand that REST web services are more advanced way of talking between the two systems. SOAP and REST both will do the same functionality, but SOAP is actually been there for years and REST is actually getting more popular nowadays. Both will do the same thing. Okay, so you can nowadays most of the companies, I mean even Oracle is exposing the SOAP web services and REST web services, and basically whatever they expose, we have to consume that. And if you are a producer, if you want to write your own web service, okay, and it's again your choice, you can write the web service in the SOAP format or in the REST format. There's no stopping for that, but REST is more advanced and it has to, and the implementation REST services is more, I mean it's more stylish than the SOAP web services, and it needs little more steps than what SOAP typically will do. Okay, we'll see. I will try to show some REST APIs. Basically, if time allows, we will also create some web services. Basically, we can produce, we can create some web services as a producer, and we can see that. Okay, so okay, coming back. So what typically, why we are talking all this? The reason is simple. We wanted to automate our inbound integrations. Okay, and what our learning we are doing, we are also going to use that in our outbound integrations too. Okay, so why we are talking all this? Because I can't manually send the file every day to the cloud and keep triggering the jobs. That's not my duty. What I wanted to do, I want to automatically send the file and I want to automatically load the file. That's how it should happen, and that should keep happening every day. That's my intention, right? And sometimes maybe I have a requirement that think of a requirement like we have HCM cloud and we have an Active Directory. Okay, so what I was trying to do, Active Directory example, think of a scenario. So I have HCM cloud here, and I have Microsoft Active Directory here. Okay, basically my company where we create our company user account for an employee. Okay, so it's what it is. So only once we create the company user account for the employee, typically what we can do, typically we can only once they create the company user account, then typically what happens, we can log into Messenger. Okay, log into Messenger or log into Mailbox. Okay, log into Mailbox, or basically we can if you wanted to submit any expenses the first day. Example, if your employee got relocated and if you want to submit any expenses, example, different applications I'm saying. Okay, where do they submit the expenses? Maybe they can have different applications. Example, Concur is one application or something like that. And log into a Mailbox. Basically, it's actually Outlook. And log into Messenger. Maybe they can Skype. Okay, Skype or link, something like that. Example I'm saying. So what happens when employee got hired? Okay, where the employee get hired? Employee hired, get hired. Okay, now when employee get hired, where employee get hired? Employee get hired in the HCM cloud, right? But we have Microsoft Active Directory in where it is in our, it is in our company network. Okay, so our company server. Okay, so it's our company server where typically all these things are happening here. Okay, think of it as a company server where typically we have to, we will be maintaining all these things here, right? We have to maintain all these.
On-premise, right?
Sorry?
Company server, what you're referring is on-premise, right?
On-premise, yes. You can say like that. It's an on-premise. So it is an on-premise. So it is what it is. We have this like this one, it is the situation. So what happens when employee get hired here, then what happens? Then employee get hired, typically immediately what happens? We should have the Active Directory account get created, right? We should get Active Directory account should created. Once the Active Directory get created, then typically what happens? Then typically then this will give access to this system. This will give access to all the systems, right? So yeah, it will give access to this system, and this system. This is what happens, right? So if this employee was not in this directory, then typically no, that person cannot log into the systems. It means the first day that person won't do any work. Okay, then how do this person will come here? How it should happen? Option one, I will send a file every night. I will send a file to this Active Directory, or I will send a file every 12 hours, or I will send a file or every 6 hours. And our company, people joins a lot in our company, people leaves a lot in our company. Whenever, so our company has a requirement that things should happen immediately. Whenever employee had here, immediately account should be created here. If that should happen immediately, then as and when the employee get hired, this person should come up here and automatically the program should get triggered here and user account should be triggered automatically here. If that is a requirement, what you need to do? What you need to do typically, if you want to automate that one, as and when, it's not like every 1 hour like that. As and when employee is hired, you want something to happen here. So what typical I can do, I can write a web service. Okay, I can write a web service from here. I can write a web service from here. Typically what I can do, I can, I will look at EMP created from last timestamp. Last timestamp means whenever you are trying to look at the employee created for the last timestamp. Maybe you are trying to search for the employee. Looking at search for employees created from the last timestamp. Last timestamp means since the last when this Microsoft directory trying to interact with the cloud. Look at the employees created from the last timestamp. Then get the employees here. And for those employees, create the Microsoft user account. Maybe what I will do, I will keep looking for the employee in the cloud. I'll keep searching for the employee in the cloud. Maybe every 5 minutes. Maybe. Okay. So I'm not sending anything from the cloud. From Microsoft directory, I'm trying to search for employees created in the last 5 minutes and keep searching it or sending it here. That is one way. Or if this cloud here, if I have provision to send to the Active Directory as and when employee is created, right? If I have some event here where actually keep monitoring if employee is created and sent to the Active Directory, we have that provision as well. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a scenario where Active Directory is looking for the cloud for every 5 minutes and getting the data here. Okay, I'm trying to do that. If it is a scenario, basically, if you wanted to try up, okay, it means we have to search for the employee. How do you search for the employee? Then there should be an web service available. Search EMP web service, a method basically. Web service is method. Search employee method should be available. Okay, I will call it web service. If I have this web service available, then typically what I can do, I could call this web service every 5 minutes and get the employee records and get the action done here automatically. That's other scenario I'm talking about. Apart from this scenario, loading the file, this other scenario where actually we can look out that, right? So in all these scenarios, we have to look at we have to go with the web services. But before doing anything, example, if you want to search employee, we should first, this method should be available to the outside world. Similarly, if I wanted to run an import and load program here, then this method should be available to the outside world to consume. How do we know this method is available or not? How do we know this search method is available or not? How do we know if I go to integration cloud service, I have a method available or not to load a file into the HCM? How do I know I have a method available to load and import it? How do I know that? Again, for that, we have to go with the basics. I was saying WSDL is the one which will talk about methods, arguments, return type. Where do you find the WSDL? You have to find in the UDDI. Okay. Now, for that, again, Oracle has given a very good documentation. Documentation is like another registry where you can go and search for your web services. Again, go back, same thing. Fusion Enterprise Repository, go to Global Human Resources. We have the SOAP web services. Basically, SOAP web services includes REST web services as well. Go to the respective version. If you go that, then here you can see the development. We have something called Oracle HCM Cloud Web Services, Oracle HCM Cloud REST APIs, and REST API for common features, and SOAP for the common features. So we have all these 4 available, which you can refer to start building up your web services. Okay, so example, if you go with the Oracle HCM Cloud SOAP web services, basically it will talk about basically what is a web service, how to discover web services. Basically, we have something called business object web services, which we can use to, here again, I am talking about, as I said, we have 2 kinds of web services, SOAP and REST. What Oracle has done, Oracle has given some methods in the SOAP web services and some methods in the REST APIs. Okay, I'll open a new tab. I mean, open this in a new tab. Okay, so they have given it in the, some of them in SOAP and some of them in the REST. Okay, in the SOAP, we have go to business object services, which business objects we have the web services available. Similarly, in the REST APIs, we have, these are all the feeds, employees, work structures, attributes. There are many other APIs which are available in the REST APIs. So basically from release 10 onwards, they converted most of the SOAP APIs into the REST APIs, basically. Okay, and SOAP APIs, most of the SOAP APIs we will be using to load files, or to typically most of times, if we take about these 2 scenarios, in these scenarios, typically Oracle has given SOAP web services, and in these scenarios, typically Oracle has given REST APIs. So we should understand both the things, how to consume SOAP APIs and REST APIs. But as of now, I was talking about SOAP APIs. I will talk about SOAP APIs, means I will talk about loading and triggering the file. That's what I will talk about now. Okay, and then we can talk about REST APIs. Okay, in the SOAP APIs, in the business object services, we have, these are the objects on which we have the web services available. If I click on the data loader is the one which actually service to operate HCM data loader. This service provides access to HCM data loader to automate the bulk loading of data. This is exactly what we want if we talk about HCM data loader. Similarly, if we talk about financials, in the financial SOAP web services, similarly we have something called SOAP web services for Oracle Applications Cloud, basically manage file import and export, where actually this is actually where we can perform file-based import and export objects. So here to file import and export, this is the WSDL which actually talk about import and export. Okay, in this case, data loader perspective, it is the WSDL which talks about import and export. So if we see this WSDL file, it will give us what methods are there and what inputs it will take, what output it will take. Okay, so if I take it, now what I need to do, I need to create
So Lakshmi, basically, SOAP is going to deal with the file upload and import, and REST web services will be used to test, means check whether the object is created or not, something like that. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, REST APIs actually we can use for the CRUD actually. CRUD means create, read, update, delete. So we can
For those activities, we are going to use REST, and for file import and export, all those things, we are going to use SOAP.
Loader perspective, you can bulk loading perspective, you can. That's why Oracle divided actually. Bulk loading perspective, you can use.
Can you repeat?
For bulk loading perspective, we can use SOAP web services, and for object specific CRUD activities. When I say CRUD activities, CRUD, that is create, read, update, delete on each object, whatever object Oracle has given us provision to do, we can use the REST APIs. Okay, so let me okay, so I need to create the, I have the I'll take it, I'll copy my thing. So typically what I need to do, I need to copy the in my inbound integrations, I prepared the same thing basically. Same thing, just copy this one and keep it here and take it. So we have seen this one, right? Just go here and enter it. So it will typically open the WSDL file. So this is the WSDL file. It is actually for any web service, if you want to consume, this is what you get. You get the WSDL file. From the WSDL file, you have to start working on your respective methods. And what Oracle has also done, it simplified it. It also given the methods here, import and load data. Get started. Yeah.
Could you show again that service SGL?
WSDL file? Yeah.
So no, you have taken that first one, right? You copied our file.
So it is usually, initially it is like this, because we have, where is it? So this is what it WSDL file, right? But typically Oracle won't give the with our URL. It will give like this. So what I did, I just copied our instance URL like this, and I copied it here. And what all I need to do, I need to replace this one with our main URL. That's it. Take this and then enter it. You will get the WSDL file. It's a public WSDL file. It won't have anything. It will just mention what.
So if you not replace, what will happen? Means you replace, right, with our URL. Means as it is, if you use, what will happen?
Oh, you won't get anything. If you use this one, example, if you use this one, it doesn't have any meaning. See that? HCM domain, HCM course.
I do understand. Yeah, correct.
Won't get any meaning. Actually, it's wrong. So we have to frame it. We have to frame it based on this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and this is called service endpoint interface, basically. which basically, this is a URL again. Yeah, basically, so it is a WSDL file, right? So if we take out the WSDL, it will give us, okay, I will talk about this later, don't get confused. So it is a WSDL file. So in this WSDL file, so what I'm talking here, I'm actually, this is a WSDL file. This WSDL file will have methods, operations or methods. This is an operation, it is a method, it is another method, it is another method. Okay, every method has its more meaning. Import and load data. What it will do, it initiate bulk loading of file-based data to Oracle Fusion HCM data loader. It is the description. What is the life cycle? It is an active web service. I'll talk about life cycles of the web services. We have active, deprecated, inactive, and new basically. So basically it is active web service. Active operation means you can use this operation. And what it is taking the parameters? It is a parameter. See that? It takes three parameters. Content ID, sorry, it takes two parameters. Parameter name, content ID, and description is the web center content identifier of the file to be imported and loaded using HCM data loader. Okay, and we have a parameters where actually parameters passed as a name and value pairs. Okay, so and the return type. What's the return type? It is it description. It actually what it is returning. It is initiating the data load job. It will give the request ID basically. Whatever when you import and load job, what happens? It will submit the job. Whenever it submit the job, it will return the process ID. So these are three things what it is giving out with this method. And we have another method, get default object attribute hints. So what if you observe here, they are talking about a method name, input and output. We are not seeing any logic here. We are just seeing the name, input and output, as simple as such, right? So as we are seeing that, that's all the consumer or client needs. Client just need to know what to be passed as a parameter and what to be received as an output. That's all the client should know. Okay, so the same description will be available here as well. Here also it will mention that import and load data. It will say what is the type. It is string. It is a string. So we know output is string and we know input is a string. Okay, so it will give us the respective element name. Similarly, for get dataset status, if you submit a job and if you wanted to know what is the dataset status, is it failed or success or what it is? So to get the status of it, I will get dataset status. So what I will do, I import and load data. I will submit the job. Once submit the job, you get the process ID. So what I have two things based on the file name. I can get the data status. Or based on the process ID, I have ESS process web services available. Based on the process ID, also I will get the status of my program. So I will keep looking at the status. As and when it got successful, I am good. If it is failed, then I will query for the error report. So that's what I will work, right? So okay, so it is what it is. Okay, this every method has its own methodology, and again, there is something called security. So to consume these web services, basically some security mechanism we have to pass, some security keys. I will talk about that tomorrow. And it has some security keys, and also we should have the privileges. Example, we should have the integration specialist role. Whoever user you are trying to connect, with whatever user you are trying to access the web service, basically that user has this integration specialist role, duty role assigned. Only then these web services are consumable. That is very important. So every WSDL file. Data loader has one WSDL file. This WSDL will have these many methods, and to consume the methods in that WSDL file, we should have these security rules passed. Only then you are eligible to do. Okay. Now, so what I will quickly show you one quick demonstration today, and as most of the people were not there, so what I will be trying to do, I will show you some simple tool, basically which Oracle has given, basically for HCM data loader. That tool is very quick and easy way of interacting with the cloud from your on-premise system. Okay, so let me get to the tool. So
for HCM part, or it can be used in finance also, the tool.
This tool actually HCM part. Okay, finance one we will talk about programmatical way. For finance they haven't given the tool yet, but we have to handle that in a typical web service methodology. Basically, we'll talk about that later.
But
So
can I have my own WSDL file and then use it, or we have to go with whatever Oracle has given?
okay, so if you want to have your own, means you should be a producer. You want to become a producer. Yes, you can create your own web services. Yes, you can create your own methods, and you can create your own WSDL file and expose to the outside world. You can do that. There's nothing to stop there. Okay, so but here what in the SaaS model, as I'm saying, in the SaaS model, as we don't have provision to interact with the database, and especially in the Oracle Cloud typically gives web services where only that is the only way for us to interact with the system, to do any insert, updates, deletes like that. Basically, most of in our sessions will be acting as a consumer. Producer will be HCM Cloud, will be acting as a consumer to consume what Oracle has offered. But if you're talking about typical web service methodology, yes, you can create your own own web services. So I have my own web services created, basically, and we can have our own web service created, and we can expose our own WSDL files. We have that provision. Basically, we can do that. So we can have our own WSDL file once we create your web services, and then you can example. This is my own sorry. I created my own web service basically, and I have my own WSDL file. And if I deploy my Java file in the application server, then typically my web service is available to the public. That's possible. So we can do that. But in our scenario, we are trying to act as a consumer to consume the web services given by the Oracle HCM Cloud, basically. Sorry, Oracle, not HCM Cloud, Oracle Fusion Cloud, basically. Okay. Right. So coming back, what tool I wanted to show, basically batch 2, I have shown it. We have something called HDL Data Integrator, basically. So we have the document for that, basically, which will guide you to how to install that. You can download it from the Oracle Note. Once you get this file downloaded, then typically you will get two files get extracted. Once you do using this note, once you download the file, then you get this jar file extracted into your system, basically. So one jar file got extracted. Similarly, what you need to do, this jar file got extracted. Okay, basically, if you go to that note, you get these two files. Once you extract these two files, then you get all these files got created. Out of this is the file. It's a tool, HDL Data Integrated tool. This is a tool. Basically, it is a simple desktop integrated tool through which you can interact to the cloud from your local system, basically. So for that, we have to do a few setups. Okay, so you have to give the UCM server URL, username and password, your inbound folder, outbound folder, your WSDL URL. Basically, what typically this integrated tool will do, this integrated tool will do only two things. One thing, it will upload the file, and second thing, it will run the import and load job. That's what it will do. Okay. Typically, if you remember,
for SaaS also, SaaS only, or it's for SaaS?
it's for SaaS or PaaS. Anything is fine in this tool.
How do I get the information of UCM server and all that?
I'm going to tell you that. Okay, so typically what happening whenever you're trying to run the HDL file, what we are doing, we go to data exchange here. From the data exchange, what we are trying to do, we are going here and we are going to import and load data. And what we are doing later, we are actually trying to import local file. And what we are doing, we are browsing and we are getting the whatever file we created. Example, user test. And what we are doing, we are actually submitting it. And submitting means what is happening? It is actually submitting import and load file. This is what is happening whenever we are trying to do something, right? Now, how we want to automate the whole process? Uploading the file and submitting this job. Those two things will be done by this tool, as simple as such. Okay, for that, you have to set up the UCM server URL and username. So I have in my, this is the one actually, where actually have to give the UCM server URL. UCM server URL, nothing but it is a generic SOAP protocol. The generic SOAP, generic SOAP port, typically what it will do, it actually uploads a file into the Universal Content Manager. So we have to get this URL and get it here. Sorry, before that, let me create a new, yeah, and then, so when I say new, it will automatically create the default parameters like this. You just need to replace it with our system file. So I have the HCM IMPL, and I have created an inbound folder HCM loader data loader import, outbound folder HCM data loader export, and WSDL.
Lakshmi?
Yes.
UCM username password means which password is?
It's actually same HCM IMPL, whatever password we. Any user who has access to the file import export, basically.
Okay.
Okay, any user is fine. Who has access to the, basically if you are an integration specialist, you can, any user with integration specialist role, we can say.
Okay.
And WSDL URL, this WSDL URL is very important. It is a URL, basically the URL. So this is the URL, HCM data loader WSDL URL, where actually we have the import and load data program. Okay, so I can give it here. Yeah, and I can.
Lakshmi, this is the Oracle tool?
Yeah.
It's supported by Oracle.
It's supported by Oracle. That's true.
Oh, okay.
So HCM username password also same as UCM username password.
Yes, any user who has access to this web services. How do we get access to the web services? We said that, right? Who has, any user who has this integration specialist duty role. Any user is fine.
Okay, same as UCM username.
Yeah, you can give it same. In this case, I'm giving same thing. Okay. And this protocol should be SOAP. We should not give remote intra-doc client protocol, not now. Give it a SOAP. If you use HDLDI, give it a SOAP protocol. Okay, and the profile is UCM, where actually we are trying to upload the file. Let's save this file. What happens when you save it? It will save a profile, basically. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it as batch 3, and our instance is FAP 0117. So I'm going to save this profile. Okay, once you save the profile, then you go to file upload. Here actually you can select the file. Okay, so in this case I will select a file. So we have some file. Before selecting the file, I will show you.
Where did you store that profile? Is it in the local machine or in the cloud?
The local machine. Everything is local machine here. Okay, I'm not touching cloud till now. Okay, everything I do, whatever I done here, I'm doing in my local machine. Okay. Okay, I'm just wanting to show you there is no job which is running now. So if you see here, import and load data. Oh, import and load data. Basically, we haven't triggered any job yet. And even if you see import file means it look for the universal content manager. Import local file means it look at the import file. Yeah, this is the only 3 files we have. Okay, it's in the UCM, universal content manager. Okay, now let's do what I will do. I will choose some file. Let us say any file. So let me choose job DFF. Yeah. Okay, so I will choose this one, or surrogate source key, something like that. Let me choose DFF one. Select. So now when I select the file, so it will identify that it is a business object is job. Okay. So now if I select a file, next step is to load into UCM. If I click on UCM, typically then this generic SOAP port web service being called, and this file will get uploaded into that system. Okay, so if you click on UCM, then it look at here, it is trying to connect to the cloud from your local system, calling the generic port business object, and it's trying to upload the file. So it is saying that upload file successfully, and we got these 3 output parameters: document ID, and it is a content ID. And yeah, and what it also did, it also queried what are all the files we have available in the cloud. If you see here import file again, see that our file got placed in the content server, and we have all these files available now. So same thing, it triggered, it actually yeah, let me refresh. Yeah, see that it's actually listing all the files what we have in the cloud. What typical refresh is happening, it is going and searching the list of files and getting the data. Here is a tool, because those web services are written inbuilt in this tool. That's why it is showing up like this. But we will be seeing the programmatical way tomorrow. Okay, it's actually tool and showing up. Okay, we got the files now. So it means what this did, it actually send the file, send the file to the UCM. Next step, what we can do, choose what content ID you want based on, basically when you say import and load program, what happens, basically it takes a content ID as a parameter, right? So example, if I go to tools, and if I go to tools, will schedule process, it's not here. If I go to tools, schedule process, here if I say import and load data, if I look for import, import and load HCM data file. See, import and load HCM data file, it is nothing but this, we need to trigger this program, right? When you say import and load HCM data file, what it will take, it actually asks for the which content ID you want to look for. This is the content ID, basically. It is taking the default file name, but you can give the content ID, which typically what happens, these things will get auto populated, and programmatically we can change these parameters as well. So this is what happening, right? File action. So
it's just like a SQL loader, right? It means it is going to pick the file from the UCM and
exactly, yes, yeah. So what I'm doing here, same thing I'm doing here. Basically what I'm doing here, I'm actually choosing what content ID I'm trying to load, and I'm doing the file registration here. Once I do that, what happens, it typically runs this import and load data, and it will take these parameters, content ID parameters, it will take default parameters, and it will give the description in a XML format here. Okay, so let us see that. I'm taking this one and I'm doing the registration here. So it is going to take these parameters. So I will take these parameters, delete source file is yes, and click on OK. It will go into contact, and it will come back with the output here. See that? This is what it is. So what happened here? It sent a SOAP request. Let me copy this. It sent a SOAP request. I can show it here. Okay. Sorry. Let me show it here only. It sent a SOAP request. See that? It's actually what is happening. It's actually triggering the import and load. Okay, it's actually import and load data synchronous process, and it is passing the parameters content ID and parameters are these parameters. So that is what it is. If you see the import and load, okay, so import and load, we have the parameter content ID and parameters. So same thing happening here, content ID and parameters. It is what is happening. It is passing the parameters like this, and response what we are getting the response as, this is the response. It is typically result. It is actually sending the request ID, that ESS request ID. So if we take this request ID and if you go to the monitor process, if you just refresh, you could see the, what is that, 1348455, 1348455 is there. See that? This is the request ID and it got added out. It got triggered, it got added out. So this is the request ID, and what we can do, if I do it a programmatical way, I can send this request ID and keep searching for the request status, and I can get the status actually. So it is a request ID. So it got the response in the XML. So format, as I'm not handling programmatically, as I'm handling through tool, it is passing in the SOAP protocol, and it got the message in the SOAP protocol, which is actually the two parameters, content area and parameters. And here actually I'm getting the result as a output parameter. So if you see here, it takes the content area and parameters and results as the output parameter. Okay, so we got this, and it is a request ID, and that's what, invoke successfully. That's what it happens. So and the file got deleted successfully because I was saying that once job runs, delete the source file. So it got deleted, and if you say yeah, no, then it may not delete it. Okay, that's what happened. Now, do you do this manually like this? No, that's not the way. So what Oracle has given a provision is, whatever we have done, we can also do it through a command prompt. That's what if we do that, then it is exact automation. So we have something called, I have given the steps here. You can go through this. We have something called some commands, upload. Basically, if I go back to the location where it is, we have something called upload command. What this upload command will do, this upload command which actually uploads the file in the content manager and triggers the import and load process. Again, it is a tool, so everything is inbuilt. So if I use upload command, automatically whatever file I mentioned, it will go into the cloud and also trigger the import and load program. Okay, so what I will do, this is the command. Basically, we need to upload. So okay, let me go like this. Let me go to command prompt. So let me, in this command prompt, I have this upload file, upload command. So I go here, and this is upload command. So we have to give the file name here. Which file name is this one? Sorry, it is actually profile name. So which profile has to refer to get the generic port and import and load protocols, basically the WSDL files. Okay, if you remember, I have created a profile on our name like this. So I'm going to take this. So I'm going to give that name here. Okay, and what file you are trying to upload into the cloud. Okay, so let me give some our batch 3. We have created something like this file. So let's do this one. So let me And so it is a file, and these are actually the parameters. So input number of threads for input, import for load. So whatever default delete source file is yes, and output should be result.xml file. So if I run the program from here, if I run the program from hdis command, once this program runs, typically what should happen? So it typically trying to upload the file into the generic SOAP protocol, and it's triggering the Web Center content utility transfer. It is trying to transfer the file. So it did the upload, it checked in. So it did the upload, it checked in. After checking in, it got the content ID here. Once the content ID came up, it was trying to execute the import and load. See that HCM common loader, HCM data loader. It is actually trying to import that, trigger that program. And once it came up, it actually finished successfully, and it is the result we received. Okay, so how do we get the result? As I said, responded output, bring output to result.xml. So if I go back to my, I should get my file. See that at 11.3, I just got the file. If I open the file, it will say that, yeah, it will say that it is a process ID. If I take this process ID, and if I go to the cloud again, and I go and look for the process ID, if I search for it, it says completed. See that? It just got the file completed. This is our file. So it is more automated way. So if you run this command, if I run this batch command on daily basis, right? If I, whatever command I have created, if I can generate the file on nightly basis, and this profile is standard every day, and this one on nightly basis, so what I will do, I will run this command on nightly basis. So every night this file will go, this file will be generated dynamically, and this file will go, and our file will be placed in the cloud on daily basis. So it is more automated way using HDLDI. Again, we are using the HDLDI tool and making use of all the inbuilt commands. We are not typically wrote a programmatical way of handling the web service, but we have seen the we have used this tool to upload the file and trigger the import and load program. Okay.
Lakshmi, I didn't understand that profile. Can you please explain what is that profile exactly?
Profile is nothing but, if you remember, whatever we have set up, right? It's a profile.
See, if you don't mind, can you please explain this? I missed it.
So this profile has two things. One is this profile has two things. Two protocols basically. I would say two web services. First web service is to load the file into the universal content manager.
Correct. Yes.
Will take care of it. And
correct.
second web service is to run the import and load program by taking the content ID as a parameter.
Yeah, from the UCM.
From the UCM. So
right.
These two things I have given. To access this web service, I have given username and password. To access this web service, I have given username and password. And both these belongs to the import account, HCM data loader import account. Inbound is import account, outbound is export account. That's the meaning of it.
So here the username password means Fusion username credentials,
yes.
Right?
Whoever is the user has ability to consume these web services.
Achha. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's what it is. So if you go to the profiles also, you can if you open the profile, typically it will have the same thing basically. It will have the same thing. It will have the generic port USDL, username, password encrypted. So it will have all those things in this profile. Okay.
How did you name that profile? Batch 3?
Yes, you can name it in any manner. In our own, I batch 3 and I named it as the instance.
But where is it asking for the name? Like when you create the profile?
If you want to save it, it actually asks for the name.
Okay, fine.
So once you create it, you have to save it actually, else it won't work.
Okay.
And the
So it's a
same
mandatory
name,
step, I think.
and that same name you're using in that script.
Exactly, yes, that's true. Yeah.
You can schedule this this whole syntax
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Fusion so that
Yeah.
it can run as a set.
Yeah. Oh, you are trying. Okay, you're talking about scheduling this one in the.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you create this as a concurrent program as this particular syntax?
That's of no use for us.
Because I have to every time go to command prompt and enter it.
No. Typically, what I will do in my local server, I will schedule this batch command.
Okay.
I will create a batch file in my Windows command. In the batch file, I will have this command in my batch file. In the batch file, I will generate this file dynamically. I will refer it to my some directory and refer this file on nightly basis in my batch file and schedule that batch file along with this command.
It's scheduled on Windows.
Windows, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the file name might change, right? Like see,
it will change, right? We have to, we have the batch command actually, what we call batch scripts actually in Windows, where actually you can dynamically refer the file name.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Yeah. It is
Again sorry, you go on.
Yeah, it is a simple way of using it. Quickest way of using it. Anyone can try in our own systems, basically. That's why I have shown this. But tomorrow, later, I'll take 2-3 days more. We'll talk about these integrations. And for that, I need to cover a little bit about application development framework. So it will take around 3-4 days only on these web services, basically.
So Lakshmi, this is again very specific to HCM, no? This whole process.
This tool is specific to HCM, basically. Okay. And
for finance will be something else.
Finance who don't have a tool like this, basically we have to go with a programmatical way.
Okay, so that you will show separately.
Yeah, I will show you. I will teach you about that.
Okay, thanks.
Lakshmi, I don't think we require any additional skills to execute this service protocols or something, right? Whatever is available as a method, we can reuse it. Right?
Yes, we have to reuse it, but we should know how to use it, right? So if tool ways, it is very easy. Think of a programmatical way. From your program, writing a PL SQL program example, and from PL SQL program, you have to call the web service, and the web service should get back the result. You have to consume the result. But meanwhile, to make your PL SQL as a web service method, you have to follow some standard way. Basically, people write the web service in Java, and that's what I'm going to teach as well. So create a Java method which will call web service. In that case, our Java method should become a consumer. To become a consumer, it should have a service endpoint interface. So this typical more steps are needed. That is the knowledge we need to acquire. How to create a web service, how to consume web service. If you want to create a web service, what are the specific steps we have to follow? Yeah, I mean, not much knowledge is needed, but we should know about the fundamentals.
Okay. And I think that a typical SaaS model has been given. What are the setup required? Because it talks over the cloud, right? Because what are the ports open? Do we have to make any changes in the SaaS application?
No. If they're
but
giving
how do you know that it is talking over there? Because I do understand, because this is a SaaS thing that is a typically new things has been given from the customer. So how do we know that what has to be opened, what has to be checked on the high level? If you are aware, just if you can throw some light on that. Okay,
so you're talking about what tasks are open? I didn't understand that specific thing.
For example, ports.
Okay.
Communicate between
right. So typically, what happens here, right? So typically, whatever they exposed in the directory, these web services we can consume. But as I'm using tool here, it is opening up easily. But in reality, we should have the security key, basically. Only if you handshake that security key with the cloud, then only it will open up the port. So there's no necessary, I mean, and again, if you are in your client system, in your client application, if you wanted to, typically what happens, example, in e-business suite, you have written this program. And from e-business suite, you have to interact with the cloud. And to interact with the cloud, basically we need one security key that we will give in our parameters most of times. So Fusion will take it and consume it and deliver the output. But from e-business suite side, from your network side, we should open the ports from EBS side to get the information from the cloud or interact to the cloud. So we have to take on our on-premise side, with our network team, work with them to open the ports from the Oracle Cloud. Basically, Oracle Cloud has standard ports, which they will share the range of IP addresses. Those IP addresses, we have to open the port in our on-premise systems, working with our network team, and allow the communication. Similarly, to communicate to the cloud, if you have the WSDL with your whatever user you are trying to give, that user has the proper security roles, and we have the security key. Actually, I will talk about when I talk about web services policies. Oracle Cloud will open it up. There's no restrictions for that. Anyone with the credentials can talk to it. We cannot limit it to, hey, if IP range is within my company IP range, only allow that. Not like that. We can contact from anywhere.
Okay, got it.
Actually, everything that we learned today is proprietary to Oracle, or it can be used for any web-based application. Is it just
except HDLDA, you can use it anywhere.
Okay.
So except HDLDA, whatever I taught the tool, all this is very generic. Actually, it's not limited to Oracle.
Yes, everything is generic. Is just a framework for interacting with web-based applications, right? Integrating web-based applications.
Yes. Anything. You can apply this knowledge to Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce, Workday, anything. Yeah.
Okay, so it has not been developed by Oracle, this whole framework. It is a generic framework.
It's generic framework. Whatever
Oracle is only using it.
We are using, that's it.
Yes. Okay.
As we move to the cloud, basically in the SaaS model, it's a generic functionality should be applied everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more within the systems.
So because since everything is now moving to the cloud and everything is getting web-based, these kind of frameworks become very important for integration.
Really important, right? This is what we are going to use very frequently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we should learn this basically.
So on a real-time basis, can we, for example, let me give a scenario that the payroll has been processed in the cloud and pass an entry to the GL, which is on-premise. Okay. So, can we do it on a real-time basis also, after the salary has been processed?
Yeah.
So
we can do that.
Real-time basis.
We can do that. Absolutely. So once salary is processed, means salary, the process will have the process ID, which will tell us the status, whether it's successful or failure. As and when it got successful, basically there actually we have something called integration cloud services, what Oracle has offered. Basically, I mean, in your scenario, whatever you said, there is some logic we had to write on-premise. In that case, look at the status continuously. Maybe if you know that on Friday, we have the payroll running, then on the Friday, keep looking from your on-premise application for the status of the payroll job. Keep looking at, and as and when it got completed, pull it to the on-premise.
You mean to say that in the UCM area, the file will be there and I can consume that? Probably cloud will allow that, because you know that all the data that process files will be in the UCM.
Yeah. Basically, when you process the payroll or when you run the report, typically they won't go into the UCM. Basically, they'll be stored in the database tables. Basically, or they will be. Some cases it will be stored in a file. Most of the scenarios, if payroll is processed, they'll be stored in the archive tables. So, what typically you need to do, you have to pull the data from the archive tables. So, to pull the data from the archive tables, we should write some BA publisher report or extracts, and we have to call the BA publisher reports to your local system through web services. That's what you need to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the way of doing it. So not through UCM files, through the outbound integrations, through the existing reports. We will run the existing reports.
It all depends upon business scenario also, right? Because if it is a small GL entry, probably we can write it to the file in the UCM content and then we can consume it. Or if you want a full-fledged information, probably we can write it to the BI, integrate with BI and get that.
Correct. So as and when the process is complete, run the BI report through web service and get the output of the report through web service to your local system. So
okay. Lakshmi.
Yeah.
So in this coexistence model also, web services are extremely important. Without that, you cannot do anything.
Yes. Web service is very important. Without that, you cannot automate the process. So coexistence, if you go with HCM, HDLDA, whatever I taught today, that will work. It will make things happen. The basic stuff. I know some clients are happy with HDLDI. Very simple way of whatever implemented with just now. If you deliver the same to the client, they'll be much happy with their results. So if I go with HDLDI, what I will do, I will I will just load the file and trigger the job, and I will schedule a job in Fusion applications every 6 hours like that. Look out the jobs which got failed. If it is failed, send an email to the respective person saying that this job get failed and this is the report. So I will send that report from the cloud BA publisher, which I run every 6 hours, and generate the data and send it to the respective person. That person will fix the file, and over the night that file will go back to the cloud again, something like that. So HDLDA, many projects have seen people live with that, but now demand is increasing. People wanted to get better way of interaction, so things are going more and more. Yeah. So
fully automation,
yes. And in fact, I see 75% of projects are not yet automated. They are living with the time latency, basically. So demand will increase definitely, but our consultants are so quick, and they just want to finish up the projects. They don't want to work extra on these automations. So yeah, quality is not there in the market. Maybe clients will be adamant sometime. Yeah.
Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you please show any one real scenario from next class or anything?
Yeah, we'll see one. And again, whatever we have seen with HDLDA now, that's actually we can replicate that. Whatever steps we have followed today, we can replicate that in the real scenario. Only thing I haven't shown is scheduling the batch command in the Windows scheduler service, basically. So typically what happens with the batch command, if you schedule that, basically somewhere they will schedule it actually in the scheduler service.
Can I do something in the real-time basis in the finance model also? It would be great, because
finance model I will show you actually. So when we talk about programmatical way of loading it, I will show you.
Yeah, that will be important.
Yeah, I will do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we will continue tomorrow. I will talk about a brief introduction about the first couple of slides tomorrow for the sake of remaining people, and I will directly go with a programmatical way of doing this stuff. Okay.
Lakshmi, can we go a bit slower in this area, the web services part? Because
okay.
Thing is, it is on a high demand. Let's understand it.
Yeah, that's correct. So, yeah.
Okay. Sure. Definitely, we can.
One addition also, probably all of us can absorb it, right?
Sure. Yeah.